Hey, 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 this is your girl Tamela here. Welcome to Tea with Tamela. Today I have Demario Davis. I don't know if I should call you a guest or a co-host. I feel like you're going to be on a lot of the episodes, but yeah, I have Demario Davis here, um, who is arguably the best linebacker in the league. I think I'm a little biased on that. What do you think about that?
I think you're a little biased. I think you're a little biased. I thank you. I
Uh,
thank you for thinking I'm the best there.
but I guess I also do life with you in a lot of other ways. So how do we do life together? How do I know you?
First of all, I'm just honored that you called me a potential co-host. I feel honored that you called me a potential co-host. Like this is
Potential. This is your interview. This is your interview.
listen. I'm trying to listen, Mama Davis. I'm just trying to work for you, trying to work alongside you in any way possible. So if I got a chance to be a co-host, that is everything to me. The nerves it just got real.
Oh, okay,
It just got
okay.
real. I got a chance to be a co-host.
Oh, so maybe we'll call it Tea with Tamela and Mario, or Tea with T and D.
Whatever, however you want to call it. If I get to be a co, I'm good. Whatever.
Okay, okay.
I'm good.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So yeah, how do I know you? I don't know. Like, how do we end up here?
Lord, how did we end up here? How did
Doing.
we end up here? You know what? I'm excited about this.
You're excited about it?
Yes, because it's like bringing people behind the scenes
Okay.
to kind
Okay.
of see how we ended up here. Like we
Okay.
started like this.
We did. We did start like
We
this.
started like this, and it wasn't on camera or behind a microphone, but
Nope. It was just dialogue that one thing led to another, and for whatever reason, we ended up dating, married, and now raising a family. But yeah, welcome to the show. We're gonna dive right in. Welcome to the show.
thank you for having me. Look, I'm blushing.
You're blushing. Okay, don't blush too hard. Don't blush too hard. So today, I guess we're just going to kind of talk about something that I guess a few years ago kind of made headlines with no, was it Facebook or Instagram? I think it was an Instagram post that you made about this man of God headband. But I kind of want to go back to how you even started to wear like all of this gear. I feel like back in college, your mom and I would joke and was like, he kind of looked like a jester out there, like everything that's allowed for him to wear, like he has it on, whether it's like stickers under your eyes, a towel hanging from you, something wrapped around your legs, some crazy socks. And I'm just like, why does he wear, like all of these things? But that's something I think you just kind of you picked up then. I don't even know if you did it in in high school, but I know it's something that you did in college, and kind of just followed you into the league. And year after year, I watched you go from rubber bands around your wrist to all these different things. I'm like, I don't know what's next, but I know that you love to really dress up. And so how did you really get into wearing I guess the sleeves and the headbands before we even get to the man of God movement?
You know what? I don't even know if anybody ever asked me that. I'm so grateful that you're my wife and you just asked. Your podcast is gonna be great. And if I get to co-host it or not, I'm gonna keep dropping that in there.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but you said the wristband game, so I'm gonna just show my bands.
Okay.
I keep a little something on me. That's always been a thing. Going all the way back to when I was playing Pee Wee, I remember going to watch my older cousins play high school football, and I looked out there and they all had spats around their cleats. I didn't know what that was at the time. It just looked like tape was wrapped around there. They all had wristbands and
Okay.
sleeves. I just thought that was so cool. And that was right around the time I was playing video games, and Madden was just coming on the scene and getting good with PlayStation and NCAA football. And you could go in there and create a player, and you could put like wristbands and sleeves and all that. And so that's what I used to do when I go to the games. It was like a time to dress up and do all of that.
Okay.
And I remember as early as Pop Warner, I would be over like cut socks and make wristbands. I would take like the white masking tape that you use, like the old, like it's not
Like
duct
that they
tape
made like
that you use in like classrooms. It's like
when you're
white
making arts
manila
and
tape.
craft. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
took
I don't
that
even.
type of tape and I
Okay.
taped it around my shoes. I
Oh
didn't
wow.
realize that it was like real sports tape that they actually use. I was just it
Okay.
doesn't look the same color. So that's
So
how
it
back
goes
then it is.
back.
So I was doing it all the way back then. And my homeboys used to always be like, "Man, you look like a creative player out there." Like I remember like going to pep rallies and having all the stuff on. My coach pulled me out the line. And he was like, "Hey, where you think you're going with all that? Like this is not what we're about." And I was at a real like I'm not gonna say like uptight school, but coaches didn't really go for
Not
that.
a lot of
Yeah,
creativity
they
going on.
didn't allow
Okay.
that. But I used to find a way. I would wait till the whole team go out and then I put something on. So it's crazy that what ended up being celebrated was some apparel when I used to get punished for apparel. I'm still getting
Well,
punished
you're
for
still getting
apparel.
punished for it.
That's
What it sound
crazy. I didn't
like,
even
but
think about that. I'm still getting punished for apparel. Like I used to
okay.
get pulled out of the game because my coach was like, "You got too much stuff on. Take some of that stuff
Gotta take some of that junk off.
off." And
It's
so
gonna weigh you
wow,
down. It's gonna weigh you down.
wow, I didn't even put that together. That's
Yeah, so you've been wearing things for quite some time because I didn't even realize it went that far back initially. But it's something that you carried into your NFL career, and I think year after year, again, it just became I don't know, more apparel that you added to your Sunday uniform. And so, what made you decide to begin to rock the sleeve? I always say because you don't have tattoos, maybe, but I don't know. Um, begin to rock the sleeve, and then really get into because I feel like you wore headbands, but I don't think they always said "Man of God." At what point did you get into the sleeve, and then specifically like a Man of God headband?
that's a great question. First of all, I think it's important for everybody to know that the dress code inside the NFL is very, very strict. So there's not a lot of wiggle room for creativity as there is in college. First of all,
Mm,
we have to have our socks come up all the way up to our knees, and that's all you can have on is the team colored issued socks. So
wow.
from ankle to the knee, that takes away all the stuff that you could do with like your calves and socks flip down and stuff like that. Then you have to have like a specific shoe unless you have an endorsement. So it's like you only can wear Nike unless you are sponsored by anybody else. And if you have those, you have to keep all the logos covered up. And so like that gets in the way of when you can spat and when you can't spat. Like if you have
Mm,
an endorsement deal, you can't spat. They don't want their shoes covered up. So that takes away what you can do from spats. And so pretty much the only thing that's left open is your arms. So
only your
that's where you
arms are
see like guys
exposed.
like Alvin Kamara, he does like the tape on the back of his arms, or guys do the one sleeve, or guys do the two sleeves. That's where you can really express creativity. And so that's kind of how I got into, well, my thing is going to be a sleeve and a headband. And I don't think I always rocked that. I think I was searching for a long time
Yeah, I think you
of what,
slowly added it.
yeah, I tried different, like multiple wristbands. I tried two sleeves. I tried a bunch of different things. And then when I got to New Orleans, just the sleeve with the headband just stuck. I think I started rocking the headband once I grew my hair out. In
Okay.
2016, I began
I
doing
think I
that.
remember that. I
And then I
remember
started
that.
doing the headband because before then, I think I was just kind of like covering the waves up
A
with
do
like
rag.
a little do rag or a wave cap or something. And so the New Orleans was the official sleeve headband combo. And I found a group called Sleeves. And you might have checked them. They got good stuff, sleeves.com. We'll do a little plug alongside me plugging, being a co-host. You're going to see the
You're on an
co-host.
interview and you're plugging.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
fine.
plugging
That's
it.
fine.
I'm
You know,
plugging.
I
Well, I'm
love
plugging.
sleeves.
I'm
I love
plugging.
them.
I'm plugging co-hosts more. So I want to be a co-host.
Okay, I got you.
I'm
I
trying
got
to
you.
do big guy. But so I started rocking that, and then they made a set because they knew about my faith. They made and sent me something, and it was a headband and a sleeve that said "Man of God."
Okay.
And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to rock the sleeve because it just had the words on there, and you can't have anything with words. Like it goes back to that strict code.
Got
But
it.
I knew I could probably get away with it as a headband. So I kind of found a sleeve, the one I wear now, as the arm sleeve, the one that kind of had like the tribal tattoo. Like
Okay.
you said, I don't have no tattoos, so
You do not have
that one kind
tattoos.
of looks like a tattoo. If I had one, what it would kind of look like. And then I got the man of God headband, and I just started rocking that, and that's when it all went down.
So it all went down. But you were wearing the headband before it became an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think made the headband stand out all of a sudden? Because I feel like you'd already been rocking it for quite some time.
Yeah, I had been. You was behind the scenes. What did you think?
Well, I feel like this is, from my perspective, there are a ton of different other perspectives out there, but that was the first Sunday that anyone outside of Drew Brees had led the pregame.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I felt like that was the first time in 14 years at the time, or 13 years at the time, that anyone outside of our dear friend Drew Brees had led a pregame huddle for the New Orleans Saints. And so, being that he was unfortunately out due to an injury, you stepped in, and it was a pretty good speech, I must say. I kind of wanted to put on some pads and a uniform at some point after that. And so, pretty good speech. I think the speech went viral. And then once the speech went viral, the violation went viral, correct?
Yeah. That's how it happened. I wore it all preseason, and we played the Seattle Seahawks in week 2. And you know what? I didn't even realize that Drew had only did the huddle for that long.
For that long, it was
Since
a long
2006.
time. Yeah.
2006 is when he got here, and so was that 2019? I think that was 2019. So
Yeah.
about
I mean,
13 or 14 years.
yeah.
Wow. And and he asked me to step in and do it in his absence. Um and I did, and I didn't think but that speech, the
That was
proud
sacred ground, though. That
yeah,
was definitely sacred
that
ground.
was very much sacred ground, very much sacred, and still sacred ground.
Still sacred
Still
ground,
sacred
I must
ground.
say. It's still
That
sacred
is not
ground.
something that I stepped into lightly at all.
Yeah.
And so it was so much prayer that went into that.
Mm.
And it's, man, God just so amazing now, that just thinking back how all that aligned, and
Mm-hmm.
it only could have been him stepping into the huddle, for the first time. And I was so nervous.
You were nervous?
Not nervous to speak, but to step into that sacredness. I understood, what it meant, what Drew's speeches meant.
Oh yeah, they
And
still mean a lot to the city. So that's big.
stepping in at that moment, just everything. And so to see what came from that
Mm-hmm.
in the adversity with the man of God, and how God made that into a testimony, was just is beyond.
Yeah, so it went from you wearing it to it drawing attention to you getting fined. So you get to your locker one day and I don't know what you guys do in the locker room, but you get in there, you pull out an envelope or whatever, and there's a fine. And there's a fine for how much was it? I don't even remember.
It was like almost $8,000. It was 7,000 and some change.
Okay, so you see that there's a fine, and I don't know what does these letters typically look like? Oh, what, I don't know the lingo. There's a fine for wearing a headband that says "Man of God," or how does that
Hold on, we
typically
got
go?
one of our crew members coming in.
Oh,
Watch your head, baby.
we have
Come around this way.
another co-host who's
Yeah.
auditioning, I guess.
You auditioning for the show? Yeah. So I come into the locker room, and this is Carly Faith, by the way, one of our 5, four or five. And I come in the locker room, and those, it's a FedEx. And so anytime you got a FedEx envelope, it's like, I'm like, who I done hit now? Because the game has just gotten where you can't hit nobody on defense. And
Mm-hmm.
there it was. And it was like, regarding the game, your offense was wearing uniform with writing on it, or something to that magnitude. And I'm just looking, and I'm reading the fine, and I look on the paper, I look on the ground, and there's Man of God, the headband. My headband is on the ground. And I'm like, yo, I just got fined for being a man of God. And that's kind of how I took it. And so that's when I jokingly made the Instagram post of be careful, sweetie. I jokingly made the Instagram post about, should I continue to wear the fine or should I change? Should I continue to wear the headband or should I let it go? And what should I do? And so that's kind of what took place in that moment.
And my heart was beating. Once I saw the post, I think I saw the post before, or you called me right before the post or right after the post was already up, because you probably knew I was going to say, I don't think that's a good idea. But there was a post, and I can't remember if you called me before or after, saying that, you just wanted to let the people decide. And so from there, I think we just kind of went into prayer and was just trying to figure out, like, do you continue to wear the headband? Do you let the headband go? What does this essentially look like? If you continue to wear it, you're going to continue to be fined. And so I think we were just trying to figure out, how do you not back down from your faith, which is something that you strongly, strongly believe in? Yeah, how do you go about following the rules and the regulations and the guidelines? Because it's like, okay, we want to represent God and we don't want to back down. But then there's also a scripture that says, I don't remember the exact scripture, but it talks about being above reproach.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, you're kind of in a tough place. And so going through, I think, all the different comments and hearing what different people had to say, and I think us just discussing it, speaking with wise counsel, we came up with an idea to not back down, but to follow the rules, the regulations, and the guidelines of the game, but to boldly proclaim that we're not backing down from what we believe, with you being a man of faith. And so what led you, I guess, to make that post, but then also what led you to begin that mission of, you know what, I don't back down, but I do, I don't want to say obey, but I do, I guess, adhere to the guidelines of my workplace.
Submit to authority.
Okay.
You want to say something? Let's first. I call it Faith. Want to say a little something. Hey, say something to mommy. You remember the man of God? You remember the child of God headbands?
Oh, she was a baby then. She was so tiny. I remember people saying after we did a photo shoot, they were like, "Oh, they have one on the baby," and she was like, I don't know, 3 weeks old or something like that. And I was holding the headband.
You had just got here
with my hand.
Child of God. You was a child of God. Can you say I'm a child of God?
A child of God. That you are. You are a child of God.
You are.
So yeah, what led to the mission, the post, the mission? I mean, you just kind of.
So it was exactly what you said. We had to weigh it out. That was the main part of all of it. When we had to sit before God and figure out, what do we do in this moment? How do we honor God by not backing down, but also represent God by submitting to authority?
Yep.
Dad, what are you doing?
And I'm talking to mommy on a podcast. And so that how do you do that? Like, if we don't wear the headband, now it looks like we're ashamed of being a man of God. And if we do wear the headband, now we're going against authority. And so how do you do both and do it in a way to where our life is called to make disciples? And that's what we want to do, is we want to always be a billboard for the Lord. And how do we make sure that we're doing that, and not push anybody away or be a stumbling block?
Right.
And I think that was just wisdom that came through. And you know what? Let's not back down. We're still gonna we can wear the headband in interviews and stuff like that, and give other people an opportunity to wear the headband.
Yeah.
And that's where it really took off. And so we put the headbands up for sale, and the proceeds were able to go to St. Dominique. And that was a whole nother story of how that even came together, because we had just did a partnership with them that previous summer.
Yeah, because we were working with them on the expansion of their emergency room. And I think a lot of people were trying to figure out, like, how did you guys even get plugged in with St. Dominic? But most of your childhood, your mother worked there. And so it was just a unique opportunity to just be able to give back, to partner, but also it was not just like some random, checklist give back, but it was a place that had, been a part of the family for quite some time. And how, I guess my question is, what made you decide, or how did you think we came to the decision of, we're not going to sell these headbands to make money for us, but we're going to find a cause? Like, if we're going to sell them, which, I mean, I guess we could have said, hey, we're going to sell these headbands and just pocket the money. But what, I guess, kind of led you or led us to a place of saying, we want to sell them, but we want to be able to take the money and give it to a good cause where someone else is benefiting from the glory of God and how God is using us during this season?
I think it was all about walking humbly in that situation and understanding, like, we were only in that situation because of God.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was, kind of discouraging to be fined, and then being in that tough situation, but it was still understanding that whatever was going to be done, we were going to glorify God with it.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to take it, whether it was going to be bad, we're going to glorify God. If it was going to be good, we're going to glorify God with it. And I think it was easy to make that decision that whatever proceeds came from it, it belonged to God, didn't
Right.
belong to us.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to take that situation and manipulate it in our favor. We wanted it
Right.
to
Right.
return it back to God. So
That's
God, whatever
big.
you want to do. And so if it would have raised $3, it was going back to God. If it was going to raise $1 million, it was going to go back to God. If it was going to raise 30,000, it was going back to God. But it ended up raising 300,000, and all that proceeds was able to go to something really big, in a hospital my mom worked at. But man, it's just God. It was
Oh, God.
just God that showed up in that season in a real way, and
Mm-hmm.
the fact that the man of God theme is still going strong. I actually shied away from that for a long time.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, because I remember people started to refer to you, like when we would be out, like, man of God, man of God. And you did not really like that. Or we would go to different autograph signings and people would want you to sign man of God, like on whatever, whether it was a football or jersey or whatever it was. And you didn't necessarily like that. And I think it was, I remember one incident where you had to sign it because it was like in some contract that you would sign it that you didn't even realize, but you were like, I never want to sign that, because there's a lot of weight and pressure that comes with not boldly proclaiming your faith, but with people kind of like elevating you in a position that you didn't necessarily seek or ask for. So give me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so much of that is, some people start calling you like, hey, that's the man of God, like the man of God. That's when it becomes like, look, I ain't trying to be put on no pedestal. I'm proud of my faith. I'm bold with my faith, but don't put me on a pedestal. Like, I can't save nobody. I ain't no savior. There's only one savior.
One savior.
And I want to make that clear. And so I just kind of try to stay away and just trying to walk humbly. But as time has gone on, what I've realized is this is a title that God has allowed to be placed on us, and that's man of God, woman of God, child of God. And it's like, no, we're going to use this to proclaim him even louder. Like,
right.
People are going to be looking at what is the definition of a man of God, what is the definition of a woman of God, what is the definition of a child of God. And I think because of this real lack of imperfection, a lack of perfection that we all have, for the what Bible says, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's what I was carrying, and understanding, like, dang, I've fallen short in so many areas, and I don't want nobody to put me on a pedestal. But we've all fallen short. But what does it mean to be in this world having fallen short, but to be redeemed by Christ,
right,
and to be pursuing him in this world that's full of evil and constantly trying to deter us? And so,
yeah,
hopefully, as a co-host, we'll get a chance to journey down, what it looks like to hit those bumps in the road, but to continue to pursue Christ, and really put on display so that people can understand what it means to be a man of God and a woman of God and a child of God.
right.
And that's where our real identity is. And so I just started to hold on that, more boldly and confident. Like this is something that God has done and not something that you're trying to thrust yourself in a position to do. It was interesting at church, a kid came up and his mom was
Kids are
like,
funny.
he was like, I want to get a picture. His mom was like, I told him he's with his family, but at the same time, I was like, that's the man of God.
You're like, no.
And so, now I hold it a little bit different. It's not a fear or stepping away from it, actually step into it, just because, who knows, like if shouting away from it is not allowing God to get the glory that he's trying to get from your life.
Right. And I guess when you start to think of like what a man of God represents, I like that you said that we all sin and fall short of God's glory, and that doesn't mean like I'm the man of God or I'm like perfect or anything like that, but it's like I'm choosing to submit my life to Christ. I'm choosing to constantly be filled and fueled by him. I'm willing to be I guess convicted, repenting, and relying on God in different areas of my life, whether I'm faithfully pursuing him or there are sometimes I feel like we're all like unfaithful, but knowing that God can redeem, that God can bring us out of whatever valley situation we may be in. And so I think that's big, to not shy away from it, but to be humble in the way that you take on like that mantle. Yeah. So I guess, could you give me 3 characteristics that you feel like identifies a man of God and a woman of God? And I think it's funny because long before this movement, I call it a movement, it may not be, but long before like this all took flight, I remember our friends from college that we do a marriage retreat with, that we've been doing for 7 years now. And we all call each other man of God, woman of God.
Man of God, man of God, woman of God.
So that was like long before this.
Yes.
That like when we talk to each other or refer to each other, it's like man of God, woman of God, because we're all believers. And so I just think it's neat that took flight as well, with something that we were already unintentionally using or whatever.
Yeah, and that's really how the movement should be marked, is like the craze of everybody that was wearing man of God headbands or woman of God headbands or child of God headbands. Like it's everybody, like, and it's almost like a movement that was sparked through a person, but that person isn't representative of what it's not just one man of God. Like all of us are men of God, women of God, children of God,
yes.
and so that's how the movement should feel.
Right.
And so, you asked for 3 things that mark. I think that's a great question, because I feel like the season that I'm in, that we're in, it's like I can answer that question like so clear. And it's number 1 is in 100% pursuit of God. In that God comes to us and pursues us. God loves us while we're unlovable and while we're sinners and while we run away from him. And then what he does is he captures us and he turns us towards him.
Yes.
That's the repenting, the 180 degrees. So we were running away from God and he turns us to him. And it's like being 100% committed to the pursuit of God. Like, God, I'm focused on you. That's all I want is you, and I'm pursuing. Second is making war with the enemy every day, because the enemy is constantly trying to take your attention off of God. He doesn't want you to be in a pursuit. And so if you don't fight against the enemy, he's going to make you drift, or he's going to yank you off the path towards God. If you're not pursuing God and you're just sitting idle, I say that idle mind is the devil's playground. Like if you're just sitting still, that's when he's going to get you.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, I'm just all good, I'm just going towards God, there is no enemy, he's going to get you. Like you have to make war with him every day. Like that's what it's talking about, putting on the full armor of God. The enemy is out there, he's constant. And
he's pursuing you too, right?
He's pursuing you. You ain't just running towards God with no opposition. It ain't like you got the football and you just out in the open. It's people coming, and it's
they're trying to block, they're trying to tackle, they're trying to trip you up.
It's the meanest opposition that you've ever faced that's after you. So imagine trying to run towards the end zone and you got all the Hall of Fame defenders in one person. You know, you
Ooh,
got
that's
Ed
scary.
Reed out there, Lawrence Taylor, Ray Lewis, Reggie White, Darrell Reeves, all in one. Like just out there, just the ultimate defender, just in one, and then all of his demons and minions around him. And that's what's pursuing you every day. And so you have to make war with that. Like, remember that that's the opposition. And,
right.
you know, and not be fooled, because they'll make you work for them.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so I say pursuing God, making war with the enemy, and then walking humbly. Walking humbly. The minute that you think you got it figured out, and that you're pursuing God, or that you're making war, like, oh, I'm pursuing God wholeheartedly, I'm making war with the enemy wholeheartedly, you're not walking humbly.
Because you could be fake humble, right?
You can be very fake humble. You can be very fake humble. It's, man, you need to be asking the question, am I pursuing God enough today? What can I do, Lord, to pursue you better?
That's big.
Am I making war with the enemy? How can I be making war with the enemy? You need to be constantly asking that question, because somebody said something that was very wise. I heard a couple weeks, I don't know if it was in a sermon or a message or something. It was like, the minute that you know you're right, creativity ends. And so there's no new information coming in. Once you know you're right, there's no new information. So if you're like, oh, I'm pursuing God every day, well, there's nothing I can say to you that's going to make you feel like you need to pursue God more.
Because it's like it becomes like a checklist.
Yeah, I'm pursuing God, I'm good. You know, I'm making war with the enemy. Okay, well, you're making war with the enemy. Like, what can I tell you to help you? No, I don't need nothing else. I'm making war with the enemy. Versus walking humbly, and it's like, you know what? I didn't close my back door today. You know what? I don't think I got up enough guards. You know what? I could be pursuing holiness even more. And so I think pursuing God, making war with the enemy, and walking humbly are the three things that characterize a man of God, a woman of God, and a child of God.
I think that is extremely big, and I think that's something that all of us could learn and identify and pursue, and really be able to self-reflect, to say, like, am I modeling, these things, or am I carrying these out? And my last question before we close this out is, what would you say to the individual who, I guess, feels like, I'm a man of God, I'm a woman of God, I'm raising children of God, but I just feel like I keep stumbling, or I've stumbled, or they feel like they're no longer in alignment because they're no longer perfecting or appearing as perfectionists in the eyes of, I guess, men. Like what would you tell that individual?
First of all, we all out here stumbling. We all out here stumbling
In some form or fashion, for sure.
In some form or fashion, more than we're walking or running. But to live victoriously is based on our identity. And what happens is the enemy is very crafty in making us chase false identity and wanting to identify ourselves in this world. And that's what causes us to stumble.
That'll preach. That's a whole sermon series right there.
So we stumble because we're pursuing identities in this world. So if I pursue just being a husband, or if I pursue just being a father, I'm going to keep falling short. Like, no matter how hard I do it, like, it's not going to be good enough. If I pursue being the best linebacker in the league, I'm going to fall short. All these things, like, even in a season where you're winning in those areas, it's going to be something that you're still going to fall short. And what's going to happen is the pressure of falling short in those areas is going to make you pursue something other than Christ. And so, but when you understand that you're a child of God, and you're fully a child of God, and you're fully known, and you're fully an heir to the kingdom of heaven, it gives you peace. That's the only place where you can find full peace. And so when you go through adversity, you go through hardships, it's just reminding yourself that I'm a child of God, I'm a child of the King. And that fills you up. That gives you the peace in knowing that I don't have to be on a pursuit of anything other than God.
That's it.
I'm on a pursuit towards God. That's all I need. And because I'm a child of the King, I've already got him. And so what that does is give me my identity, and it stops the pressure to perform. And I'm performing to be a husband. I'm performing to be a father. I'm performing to be the best player on the field, the best person in my job, because I want that identity. I want people to see me as a good father. I want people to see me as a good husband. I want people to see me as a good player. And I'm chasing these worldly pursuits. Whereas the reality is I don't even want man to see me as a child of God. I just want to be a child of God.
Ooh, that's deep.
That's my identity.
That's
and
deep.
I am. And when we get to that place, that's where we're at peace. That's where we're at peace. And I think that's what his word is constantly trying to get us to understand. Seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added to you. It's like, just focus on the kingdom.
Focus on the kingdom.
If you just seek the kingdom with your whole heart, you have everything else. And that's the only place you're going to get that identity that you're looking for. And that's why Jesus was able to walk, is because the two things were never unmixed. Like Jesus poured out himself, into the earth, into man. And what he did, he never poured out his deity. He never poured out himself being God. He just poured himself fully into being man. And so he was fully God and fully man. And the entire time that he walked, he never forgot his identity as God.
Wow.
But he still had on the full burden of man.
Wow.
And because he never forgot who he was able to walk mightily. And if we're going to be imitators of Christ, we cannot forget who we are. And that's what we do on a daily basis. We forget who we are, even if it's subtly, because that's what the devil needs to get you. So the opposition, he has to run a trick play on you. Before he can do anything to you, he has to make you forget who you are.
Wow.
Because when you forget who you are, you walk away from home. Just look at the story of the prodigal son. And so the enemy can't touch you as long as you in the house. So he got to get you to forget who you are, because once you forget who you are, you walk out the house. And when you walk out the house, that's where he can get you.
You better run back in.
And you better run back in. And so, I mean, he's just crafty. And so you just have to be aware of that.
That's big. That is big. I feel like that's like 3 to 6 sermon series that you could preach at some point. Yeah. So, guys, thank you for joining us as we just kind of talked about man of God, the campaign, the movement, but what it essentially looks like to be a man of God, to be a woman of God, and to also raise children of God, where we're able to pour those things into them. And so the man of God headbands, child of God headbands, woman of God headbands, there you can still get those on Sleef's website. We'll add those to the notes. But yeah, just walking boldly in that, just identifying that and trusting and believing in God in all areas of life. So again, thank you guys for joining us today with Tea with Tamela, and we'll see you soon. Peace out.